Deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.
Happy Holy Day, Moors. Happy Holy Day. Peace, love, and power to everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome back to Official House of Reawakening Minds. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. G, and tonight is more than just a live stream. It's a sacred homecoming. After a 6-month absence, the man whose teachings have been a beacon for so many of us, whose voice has echoed across this platform with truth, with clarity, and power. He's back. That's right. Grand Sheik Tarik Bey returns to the mic, and I'm here right by his side, virtually, that is, as we pick up where we left off, hopefully, reawakening minds, sleeping minds. That's right. You've donated to his emergency medical fundraiser. You've prayed, you've sent forth your healing energy on his behalf, and you've been waiting. So many of you have been reaching out, expressing how deeply you felt the void. And I won't lie to you, I felt it too. And not just the absence of Grand Sheik, but also my own absence from office hours with Dr. G. To be transparent, your sister was burned out, trying to line up Tuesday guests, managing all the moving parts. I'm 70 now, y'all. I was 69 the last time you saw me, but I'm 70 now, and I haven't slowed down. I'm just shifting gears. I'm recalibrating, and I'm being more intentional. But please believe me, I haven't been idle. I've been pouring my energy into something I truly believe that all of you will enjoy, hopefully, and that's the completion of my long-awaited book, Always Glitching: How to Be a Glitch in the Matrix. I tell you, it's a wild ride. But this season has been a personal reset and a resurrection. And though Grand Sheik isn't at 100%, let me tell you, at 79, he's still more potent than most people are at full strength. And while I'm at it, let's give thanks, deep thanks, for Prime Minister Daria Bey, who has been overseeing Grand Sheik's care, his treatment, and his recovery with incredible dedication and love. He's been itching to get back to doing what he was born to do. And I've been honored, truly honored, to, as you know, try to interpret his erudite scholarship into language we can all understand. Tonight is a return not just to the mic, but to the mission. The reawakening does continue. So, buckle up, y'all. The fire's been rekindled, and the message is louder than ever with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We are back. Greetings. Let me get you up. Let me unmute you.
Yeah.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome back.
Islam.
Islam, and to all of you in the chat. There he is. I'm gonna. It's been 6 months. Actually, it's been 6 months.
Don't seem like it, does it?
No, time flies, and so forth. But it's been 6 months, and I know that you've been through a lot and are still going through, getting back to the wholeness that we believe for you. But I'm so happy, like I said, for what Prime Minister Daria and the rest of your family, your son Sham, and all those have been doing for you, over these 6 months to get you to where you are today and beyond. I know you're still, dealing with with the eye situation, but I know you want to address the people.
Yes,
So
yes. Islam. Assalamu alaikum. Vadi Makum. Shalom. Miyam. Bon abort. Yes. Yes. Actually, one of the major things that I want to give thanks and respect and acknowledgement to doctor, because she's a doctor. A lot of people don't know that either, because she doesn't use the title.
oh,
But
Dr. The Prime Minister is doctor.
yes,
Yeah.
she actually is.
Okay.
Yeah. So most people look at her as the high end nurse type thing, but she's actually a doctor. She just don't use the title.
Okay.
But anyway, so I give thanks and recognition to her for her patience and trying to spoil me. I'm not spoilable, but and also my son Shamsuddin, and also to you, Dr. G, and Sister Cynthia Martinez, because you'll always be working in the background to help. Sister Sandra, Sister Delilah, Dr. Botanica, Dr. Nabu, Dr. Dave, Seton Ra, etc.
And
And
all of these people out here
yes,
that have
yes, and all of you haven't been named, and Brother Abdullah in the background that's been pushing on me, stuff like that, So I and many of you who the list is so long, I can't name everyone, but I want to share my appreciation, heartfelt appreciation and respect, and trust that I've done some good, because that's what I stuck around for, to be honest with you. But
look, I like that new smile you got going there.
it's like it's fun, but they kind of feel natural because they did so much work to like they have like about 6 different grades, and this is like the grade before implant, just before implant. It's the highest grade, and so they feel like kind of natural, except that that consciously I don't, but I'm getting used to them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it feels more like just before the accident, before the car accident that broke my teeth in the first place. Mm-hmm. But so I'm getting used to it, and then you have to get used to recalibrating your speech and stuff like that. But whatever.
Let me just say this too about teeth, and this is like to everyone. We're learning. I'm learning at least, more and more how important the teeth are. You know how a lot of times they'll say, okay, you can get reflexology on your feet because your points on your feet are attached to parts of your body. By the same token, your teeth are connected to the systems of the body. So what we didn't realize that as they were pulling teeth, though, and as we were growing up, different things like wisdom teeth, they really weren't meant to be pulled.
Yeah, they're connected. Everything is connected.
Right. All your teeth are connected to organs of the body. And when your teeth go bad, they can affect, like, in your case, you had an accident like umpteen years ago and didn't get the teeth prepared as a result. And then, of course, over the years, they decay and so forth. That causes, infection and so forth in our body. So it's very important, y'all, to look,
and even when you don't notice it, you know what I mean?
Right, to keep up with your oral health. It's important,
Yes, yeah. Because because the point of it is, if I had like a bad tooth or something like that, I would just simply take it out. So I didn't really like, I didn't suffer from aches and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because but still it doesn't remove the fact of that. But that wasn't the origin of the problem. The origin of the problem was eye injury trauma. And then that, I guess that collectively together with that. And then remember I mentioned you before when I was that scratched my eye doing the electric, and all that stuff that came out, also the ceiling and stuff like that, even behind my glasses. But that's part of the work.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to the point, I wanted to bring people up to snuff relative to, I'll say some things, but not everything that was on my mind, because I don't want to get into other metaphysical conversations, if you get the point.
So you're talking about the topic for tonight. So
yes,
we're talking about, okay, so let me bring, some of you may or may not have looked it up or may not have known already what the title is about the what is it, the U.S. Unam Sanctum, surviving the U.S. Unam Sanctum Usufruct. So Usufruct is a legal term that refers to the right to use and enjoy the benefits of someone else's property without owning it, as long as the property is not damaged or altered. It comes from Roman law and is often used in civil law systems. So
now, and then we want, I'll spell that out, because we can't get into it, because all that we want to talk about would be too extensive. So I'll remind everyone to take notes, because we want you to make reference thereafter. Because keep in mind, one of the things that's going on right now, and what makes it important with us here is because we're kind of, even though we're home on our land, we're not home political jurisdiction. So we're, like you say, foreign and domestic at the same time. I know it sounds contradictory, but people need to understand and keep reminding themselves that foreign also includes jurisdiction. And because we know that most people don't think, because civics is not taught properly, particularly in what you call occupied lands, the people's concepts of foreign, they're always thinking geography, and it's not true. So we got to remind people that foreign deals with information, biology, political venues, political jurisdictions, as well as geography. And when you're dealing with political operations and civilization, all of those things come into play absolutely all the time. And 9 times out of 10, when we're talking to the people and we're talking about the U.S., their concept is that the U.S. Is the land here upon which they've been operating, particularly since officially, not unofficially, but officially since 1492, with what is known as the military operations tagged as Cristoforo Colombo, which they'll teach the children in school, Christopher Columbus. Not so much a man, but a military operation.
So what you're saying is that what we were given as a real man doing a real thing was really fictitious, and it was a front or maybe a cover for
and no,
the operation,
it's
or
a military operation, just like King Alfred is today. And they're absolutely connected. Now, because the people, for the most part, are not aware of what the hybrids may among themselves refer to as break-off civilizations among themselves. This is where many of them who have referred to themselves as the elite have preserved a lot of the ancient Hikupta technologies that are here and on the other side. And that's another thing people need to understand. To preserve the wealth and power for themselves, and the fact that some of that is getting out is the back and forth, or the social civil war operations that you see happening between them, with the Whiggamore Party and the Cotton Whigs and the Conscience Whigs, that the people who don't understand the real politics here think or are taught with color are the Republican and Democratic parties of the U.S. And the acronym, the U.S., they need to always be thinking in their mind that the U.S. is first Unam Sanctum, then Union States Society, then United States of America Corporation. It's all of them. Now, the political arm that the people are familiar with, that they have been mistaught, is a country, is actually corporation that is governed at this particular time from Davos, Switzerland. It's operating on the land, at the land, but not the land. That must be at the base of all your thoughts when you're analyzing the politics here. This makes it difficult for the everyday people to comprehend the political operations when they see the conflicts going on with the praetor representatives. Keep in mind, praetor representative is what is told to you is the president. That's the praetor representative, CEO, for the corporation that is actually owned by Rome and the Khazarian mafia. The Khazarian mafia is commonly referred to as Jews, Jewish lobbies. That's the real politics. And when one is not aware of that, your concepts are easily guided by whatever narrative they present to you. But keep in mind what I just said to you is known by all politicians, not some, all, that are what you call made men and made women. We're not talking about people necessarily that come up as councilmen and councilwomen in your local government. Some of them, but all and any of them who are either Eastern Stars, Daughters of the American Revolution, if you're dealing with Europeans, Masons, etc., they all know this. This is why a lot of times people get uncomfortable when Moors come around and start talking openly things that they have held secret to their own power. And this is also why many of the people, when you get into the real metaphysics and the real geopolitics, it makes them uncomfortable. And it's also why they become very oppressive, suppressive, and immediately attack the Constitution for the United States with the right of speech, because actually their Constitution doesn't come from them. It came from Muslim law. And a lot of people don't know that. So people who don't know that think that the Constitution for the United States came from hybrid Europeans. No, it came from Moors. And this is why you'll see when you go into the congressional records and you start going into the journals, you'll see that the persons that they refer to as the founding fathers all had Qurans. And also, when Barack H. Obama was in office, he made mention when he did that speech in Cairo, he made that speech and he exposed that the Constitution come from Muslim law. And while people know that, you'll notice that a lot of people don't emphasize that, if you can. But the purpose of not exposing some of that history has to do with them psychologically separating us from the land, so they would not have obligation to the treaty, which supersedes the Constitution, and it expresses the truth of the supreme law, which you already know. Now, that's another reason why it's important for the people to be reminded of what's going on today. Now, as we've talked over the house, Reawakening Minds for years, Dr. G, as you recall, I've told you 8 years ago that Donald Trump was assigned. Yeah. Right. And I always qualify it by reminding people that that does not mean I'm supporting him. I'm trying to get people to pay attention to him and what he does, because he's put in place to do a lot of the dissolution of the corporate operations that the people thought was a country, when it's actually the dissolution on certain levels of the United States Corporation Company and the frauds that the people who own it, etc., have committed on the planet. And the only thing that holds this thing together, that maintains their power, is their military. And the fact that they've infiltrated almost all of the governments on the planet. Are we clear? And that all of the trustees who you know as congressmen and congresswomen, all of them have within their offices what you would call the invisible desk. And the invisible desk of every congressman and congresswoman's office under the United States Corporation Company has a representative from Israel. And this is why I always remind people. So if you really want to know the policies that seem to always be in conflict of what they're doing to us, or what they're doing in occupied Palestine, or when you unpeel the onions and you start looking at Ukraine, pay attention to what Netanyahu says, and then you'll understand the president's agenda. Because they're really the president of the corporation. See, this is what people don't understand. As long as people keep thinking country in the concept that they've been trained, the hybrids will control the narrative. And they're desperate now because, as we've been telling the people for the last 20 years, that the nations would stop buying their treasury bonds. Then you would have a feedback loop. That's already it's been in play, but it's manifesting now that the average everyday person who has not necessarily been listening to us, it's now becoming apparent to them that even the blind can see it. And most of the people that don't see it is because they don't want to see it, or because they have investment in the system, and in the heart of hearts, they know that their securities investments are kind of like dead, if you would like to put it in layman's terms.
I'm looking at something, because I started, doing the research, and I was going to add some of what I found, some fascinating stuff. So, someone's going to be in the book, but I want to share this because what it talks about is the fact that, when we were in control, we didn't. When we say it's our land, it's not our land devoid of the fact that it's Gaia, Mother Earth's land, that we have stewardship over the land, and that we have to protect that land and so forth. So we lived like that. But when they came in, Rome twisted Usufruct. So Usufruct wasn't necessarily a bad thing when we were doing it, using the land that Mother Earth, Gaia, whoever created, in the same manner, using it, benefited from it, but not destroying it.
A reminder to the people that this particular Earth, which is not the only one, Midgard. People say Gaia.
Midgard. Okay, yeah, so Midgard.
Now, Gaia is not improper either, because it's also called that, but it's also Midgard. And it's important to know it because we need what part of our conversations with the people it is our responsibility, those who know, to get our people more erudite in real geopolitics and get them farther away from the controlled, connotative, linguistic language that's expressed in civic interchange, which is part of the scatterbrain operations that has its root in the Southern education operations that became later the General Education Board in 1902, controlled by Khazarian Mafia, which you will know as Rothschild, which means Red Shield, and the Gates family, Frederick T. Gates, and to institute operationally animal husbandry training under the guise of erudition, and it's called education. Now, education is not wrong because it draws out, but what that is a neutered aspect of erudition. Now, we don't want to get into that necessarily, but that must be comprehended because the people need to understand that in the geopolitical realm, one of the reasons that they always have what you would call non-transparent meetings or private meetings, etc., is because in private, they don't talk like they talk to the people when they're telling them this, that, and the other about economics and everything. No different than the fact that the masses, one of the problems that the masses still have today is not knowing that finance and financial weaponry is not in the concept that they're told. So what you see going on in the world right now is financial wars. The operations of the trade from the Unam Sanctum operators of the U.S. corporation company has always been financial weaponry, not money. The people, like we've been telling the people over and over again, they haven't been allowed to have money. This is why, and no different than the perpetration of the quote unquote electrical impulse input output distribution control containment is called currency. It's biology. Now, no, I'm talking political. I'm talking real politics, real civil politics. Because the fact that we're coming on now, even though, the prime minister, you're not ready to, but she's always looking out for me. Right. But it's because the people are in trouble more than they think they are right now. And like you've always said, and it's really true, no one's coming to save us. And we need more erudite people who will, and it's difficult, I recognize it's difficult to get out of their emotions, which is difficult because we're trained to cater to our emotions. It's not unnatural, but we're also trained. In other words, everything relative to human biology has been weaponized against us. And not being aware of it is part of the danger, if you get the point. And it's sort of like when you're aware of something, it's not even an issue of agreement or not agreement. It's an issue of once you understand what you're dealing with, whether you like it or not, you spend less time what you would call dealing in scatterbrain operations, which is a military operation, and design. That's not an opinion. The people who are under the governing auspices of the Circle Church and Chancery operatives of the bar, British Accredited Registry, that actually are the trustees for the United States Corporation Company, faced to the public by what is known as the congressmen and senators for the United States Corporation Company, all know this, and they use this. All their operations between each other is, in layman's term, called good cop, bad cop operations, where you think they're actually opposed to each other, and they're operating in partnership to drain the carcass of humanity, which you know as exploitation and colonization, that the people keep forgetting that we're colonized. Usufructory is colonization essence.
Now let's qualify that, because it's in the terms of how they use it. When it had its original,
the meaning is given to you mildly so that you don't look beyond the veil.
Also, can we say that then the word the prefix is for fruit, and so it's about the fruit.
Another good word for right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I will try to lean to things that are researchable in the records, that they will recognize that what is available to them. As an example, when we tell people to read the flash drive with when Traficant spoke on the floor, and you already know they neutralized him later.
Yes.
And hypothecation, use that when you're looking at usufruct, because that is the term that's used among themselves, but not to the public. And hypothecation is what the marriage license is used for, the birth certificate is used for. Thank you, Prime Minister. The birth certificate is used for. The CDLs and the driver license are all usufruct, hypothecation, estate, and equity draining instruments. That's why we remind people, when people are reminded of Jekyll Island, they call it the monster or the creature.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of Unam Sanctum operations. It's in stages. And this is where the masters aren't aware of the time warp. So it's sort of like rebranding. And the rebranding is part of the political art of making people think that certain things ended when they really didn't. No different than, we know that the word slave is connotatively used. But in its connotative context, understand, for the mind control operations of the manumission and the neutralization of Abraham Lincoln was the period of where they overthrew the republic in order to institutionalize slavery, not end it. So remember, the 1865 operations and the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, which is the proper name of what people have been told in school is the Freedmen's Bureau, which is the Bureau of Refugees, and we are those refugees in our own land. Do you understand?
So let me give the layman's terms of what you just said. What this means is that you're operating under usufruct, and your estate, as he said, is hypothecated. You're using what is legally pledged without full disclosure. They are. It's a high-level form of spiritual and legal enslavement hidden beneath the surface of words, systems, and status.
Exactly. That's the wardship tenures. And that's wardship, and that's how all the corporate states are run. That's why the people are treated as wards, because we're actually political wards. Now, to cover it up, they will project, and they have used artfully, the phenotype psychosis of human evolution and genetic codes of families that they use from or adopted from Carlos Linnaeus and Frederick Johann Blumenbach, and weaponized it, and they call it the race issue of North America. Mm-hmm. All that's mind control. Doesn't mean that everything related to it is false. It doesn't mean it. It means it's biological information mixed into political, jurisdictional usurpations, and then used as from a usufruct and a hypothecation mentality and linguistics to actually steal the birthrights of the people under the guise of color of authority, color of office, and color of law. The outcome is usufructory. And so you must look at also what is known as perfect usufruct and legal usufruct. So write these things down, because you're going to do your research so you can refine the politics that are ongoing currently as you see the nations of the earth in conflict with the representative praetor for the corporation, who at this particular time is designated as Donald J. Trump. and all of the threats that he's making relative to taking over Greenland, hypothecating Canada, maybe Mexico, or claiming Panama Canal type thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's Unam Sanctum operations. Does not mean that that's him personally. People got to get out of personalities, because remember, the assignments are imposed. And you already know twice that's made public. It's actually more than that, but twice projectiles came at him to remind him because he was not following the script.
Yeah.
However, he also has an ego, if you get the point. And even though the Khazarians still control all of the platforms, he has not been as cooperative as the others. That's what makes him unique. Mm-hmm. Don't look at that as support. Look at him because it's important, because the things that are happening around him will expose the system and free you from the mind control if you pay attention. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like a betrayed party in a corrupt order who's trying to break away, can't, but trying to do what they can to kind of spoil it at the same time. That's Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Meaning that when they threatened his family and threatened him, kind of like, all right, we can play, if you get the point. But at the same time, you're still locked in, if you get the point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, and you have to keep in mind, this is why, even now, if you notice how they're threatening to remove the 2.8 billion of note support to Harvard and some of your major universities, that's your larger one, but it's actually all of them.
Because they've been responsible for a lot of the propaganda.
They're redirecting the finance to Israel.
Oh, but that's not good. That's not good.
No, listen carefully.
But I'm saying that's not good, but they have been.
It's important for us I'm just saying, not for you, but for people not to look at it with emotion. We're talking political logistics, and we want the people to pay attention to the componentry that I'm presenting, so that their minds cannot be distracted, so that their families don't get trapped and sacrificed, because they're going to do a lot of human sacrifice along this way, there and here, and the people still don't believe it. It's almost like our people still don't believe that these people are evil.
I get it.
It still hasn't wrapped around these people's heads that most of the makeup, high-end makeup that these women have been using are some of the babies who were disappeared.
Yeah.
And you can say that and they still can't wrap their head around it. And many of them can do some research and see it and still don't wrap their head around it. The point that I'm making is, when the beast is cornered, they become more dangerous. And as the world stopped buying the U.S. Treasury bonds, they're threatening everybody. Because it's over. But it's not over, if you get the point.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people look at things, with an attitude. Look at it logistically, because you have to keep, not unlike a doctor or a nurse. If you're a nurse or a doctor, and you're dealing with a patient, and the patient got a splinter in their finger and is bleeding kind of profusely, the nurse can't go, "Oh my God," and run in the corner, cry, get a napkin, then come back to take the splinter out. Doctors and nurses don't do that. Neither do soldiers. That's my appeal to you. We are in need to become more stoic at this time, but not narcissistic. That's from the spiritual realm, for real. I'm interjecting that because that's at the base of why I chose this subject. Everything that we're saying is not what we have not said years before, but it's timely because of the operation, the logistical operations in the political venues around the world. It is current events. Are we clear?
Yes.
And we may think that we have the luxury to keep taking these things as another session for conversation, when the real deal is that people's physical and economic lives are not going to be at stake. They're on the table being traded right now. And they will sacrifice people without a second thought. There's not even a thought given to it. And with the hypothecation operations of all of their stock options and derivatives that are tagged to humans, you go with it. There's no hesitation. Do you understand? So they're going to be aggravating and starting things all around the world and then sacrificing you first as pawns to satisfy their debts, not your debts. We've been telling the people the alleged national debt is the debt of the corporation, not of you, the humans. But they tag it to you through the Sister QV Trust to say that you are the unqualified beneficiary and they're the double trust FOFR trustees. So they want to kill off the creditors. Are we clear? And because we're in the belly of the beast, you're first. This is why they used the SARS-2 mutated biological weapon, patented. I won't say the number right now because I don't want to spend too much time on that. And I could tell you the number of it, owned by the Gates family, same ones that set up the General Education Board to start the mind control animal husbandry that we're dealing with right now. That's why they did that, to reduce a lot of the persons that were supposed to get what you call retirement benefits, as well as to create more sickness. And this is why you see also in these last 7 years or more, you see more wheelchairs on the streets than you ever did, with people younger and younger in wheelchairs and thinks it's normal. And a lot of that came from that biological operations. It, from their position, it didn't neutralize enough, so they're going to come again.
Coming again, yeah. They're coming back with, if first they come back with it first, though, Grand Sheik, psychologically to prepare you and get you thinking even in terms of it's coming.
And remember, because...
So you can help manifest it.
Yes. And because of projection, which is also part of their operations, projection and masking is why they keep throwing at you China, Russia, China, Russia, China, Russia, China, Russia. It's them.
Yeah.
And occupied Palestine, which is Canaan. And that same is connected to you here, who are the ancient ones beyond the ancient ones. Pre-dynastic Hykupta or pre-dynastic Egypt is actually right here in America. That's one of your highest Masonic secrets. I'm just throwing that in there so that the people can work with information that is presented by many sons and daughters here who are woken up to the truth of the bloodline. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to present just a question to you, Dr. G. Mm-hmm. A conversation I've had with my son and also with Dr. Hannibal.
I'm sorry, listen to y'all to be drinking. While but these are my vitamins. And I didn't think
they don't need a sip.
These are my vitamins.
Now, I lost my train of thought, but really,
You said you were going to pose a question to me that you talked
yes,
with your son
yes.
about.
I'm going to give you an adept code. It's really a code.
Okay.
Although it's a lesson. But from an adeptus position, it's also a code. Because remember, everything of Egypto or Egypt is multifaceted.
Okay.
And also metaphorical. We know that bloodline linguistics and the names of families change over years. Now we know in the linguistic forms, both Persic and what you call Latin form, al means descendant or coming down from.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into the World War records and you see Al Marak, you already know that it's America or Amerique. Now, also, you know that Al Moroccan or Moor is simply a short form of Moroccan. And you know, Moroccan is a modern form of Moabite. Now, here's your question. In the code metaphor, in the questionnaire, Sheik Sharif Abdul Ali said, Jesus means justice. That's an answer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To a question in the questionnaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a code. So keep in mind justice. Keep in mind the 5-point star, which is Anail, right? Which is the planet Venus. All right? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So that means it closes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who in the history of the genealogy that's presented in the beginning of the Circle 7 Quran, who's the most famous Moor in history? We're not talking about people liking that Moor or disliking that Moor or what their concepts about that Moor is, whether metaphorical, biological, genealogical. Who's the most famous and world-known Moor known to Midgard?
You're asking me. I'm going to say.
Now I'm going back to the questionnaire. Jesus means justice.
Mm-hmm.
But you already know there's no J in Hebrew. There's no J in Aramaic. There's no J in the Urdu linguistic form. It's Yashir.
Okay.
However, we know that, but we already know when things are given in metaphor and code, sometimes your morphology, linguistic translations are used.
Mm-hmm.
And we know there's a difference between translation and transliteration. I'm just giving you keys for thought. So I'm going to cut through the chase. Who was Ruth?
The grandmother of Yeshua.
What is her bloodline? Ruth was
Moabitess. Moabite. Moabite.
So Yeshua was Moabite.
Mm-hmm.
What's the modern name for the Moabites?
Is that the Moors?
You're saying that with a question.
Moors.
Oh, Moroccan.
Moroccan. Okay.
What's the modern name for the Moroccan? Short.
Moor.
Of course it is. So that's the most famous Moor. But how many people who claim to know the history and have a relationship to that one have that information, know it, and wouldn't even recognize the question when presented to them? I just wanted to point that to you to give you something to think about, to show you how people don't pay attention to details nor logistics. What I did was a logistical breakdown that's used in military operations around the world. And this is another reason why people are easily conquered, because they don't trust their own intuitive mind. So you can present them with linguistic and logistical evidence, and they think it's a trap, and they start blocking their mind. That's the operations that you call animal husbandry.
Well, here
I was demonstrating to let
me
you
add something to that, though, because you know me, I get the. So yeah, Jesus became, as you'd say, the Roman church system. The code name that Rome used.
Now, so who murdered him?
Wait a minute.
Who
They used it to hide the identity of who he was and the purpose of him as a Moorish liberator.
So now, who set up Unam Sanctum? Rome.
Right.
That's there. Now, what is the military arm in the modern times? Union State Society, what is known as the United States Corporation Company. When was the last time they made registry? In the land of flowers known as Florida, 1925. How have they been robbing the people in order to fund it after that? It's the War Tax Act of 1917. Where has most of that finance been going, and what is it attached to today? In violation to treaty and constitution, it's called property tax. Who is the field soldier assigned by the corporate operatives of the Khazarian mafia to rob the people's equity of their property via that Roman tax? It's called property tax. And most of it is designed to go to the operations of what agreement with the Roman order. It starts with a B. I'm giving you all something to deal with after the war, in Second World War. And they made agreements. And then they created an artificiality under a name of a religion of people claiming to be somebody that they're not. That's where that tax goes every year. That's why every praetor for the United States Corporation Company always mentions them in that support when they are inaugurated. Why? Because they actually own the corporation, and what is their really administrative instrumentality is called Federal Reserve Bank. So people don't tie that to the Rothschilds in their mind, do they? They don't tie that to the United States Corporation Company, do they?
Nope.
They don't tie that to Unam Sanctum, do they? They don't tie that to Jekyll Island, do they? They don't tie that to the conversion of all allodial titles and aboriginal titles to mortgages and deeds, 1913, and then the extraction from the people in 1917, which is the property tax and the tax assessment offices in all of the jurisdictions of the United States, which is total fraud. That's what's breaking the system right now. I'm giving you direct points of reference where Europeans around the country are presently in suit and not making it public to try to save their houses. Because the property tax is what they've been funding occupied Palestine with since World War II. Unconstitutionally, they've been robbing your estate to fund them. And all of them have a seat in every office of those representatives that represent them, not you.
When you say they have a seat, is that like a shadow seat, like with the shadow government?
It's called the shadow government.
Right, okay.
That you see the Europeans talking about now. They all know, they'll call it APAC. I named it directly.
Mm-hmm.
That's who really runs it.
Isn't it interesting that they would call it APAC, so allegedly an acronym, but what it is they've made APAC.
Yeah, that's who owns the corporation. Now, this is what must be understood. United States is not a country. It's a corporation. Now you understand Anna von Rees and her book a couple of years ago, supporting everything we've been telling people for 45, 50 years. Why? Because they've sacrificed the middle class because the world is turning on them. Are we clear?
Mm-hmm.
Even their allies recognize the time, which is why you start seeing them arguing among each other with what they disguise as tariff trade. That's a cover argument. That's not really what's going on. The bond system is dead. Like we talked about at the house, Dr. G, months ago, they keep, to prepare the people, they keep talking recession, and I keep saying they're in depression. And it's sort of like tell the truth so the people can redirect their energies. We're talking survivability issues right now. People still don't understand that they're in survival mode, and they're the last ones being told. Last 5 years or so, what have you been doing at House of Reawakened Minds, which I told you because I already knew it was going to happen. When I said get as much silver as you can,
mm-hmm.
and get the people to acquire it while they can.
Oh, wow, it's affordable, yeah.
I'll leave that hanging. Not in, we're not going to get into that, but I'm leaving that hanging because they've been, like I said earlier, and I'm going to say now, everything that we're talking about, we've already told them. However, it's because of the deck that's operating right now. I'm bringing this up because it's already here. And keep in mind, rather than take responsibility and accountability, they will sacrifice people, which is what's happening. Not going to happen, it's happening. Problem that they have because nations are resisting them, which is really why the genocide curve is not higher than it is right now, meaning that if it wasn't for them being distracted with China and Russia right now, more of our people would be physically not here. But they can't, it's sort of like the Dutch boy with his fingers in the dike in holes. He's running out. In other words, they can't choke the firstborn, and that means more than what people think it means. They're trying to choke the firstborn child, but they're busy trying to hold off others who getting ready to try to choke them. But understand, if those others from the East weren't distracting them, many of us wouldn't be having this conversation. And our people don't know that that's how close it is. That's why we're having this conversation. Because when you're aware, even if it's uncomfortable, your defenses are not down. Point that I'm making is don't fail to be diligent on all fronts. And as I told you before, Dr. J, I think maybe about 10 years ago, we might have mentioned it in between about, when I used to go to out to Sacramento, and they used to bring me out, and we go to the Merit University, and we have venues over here, but usually when I would go over that side, it would be, thousands of people easily venues, where here we have hundreds, right? And be people from all walks of life. And I told you about Lorraine Murray, right? She's a European. Lorraine Murray. She is a student of the world's most advanced nuclear scientist who's going. But she shared information relative to the Wigner's disease and Wigner's effect, which is why I stopped flying.
I'll put that in my book.
Out of the air.
What do you say?
Now they're starting to fall out of the air.
Actually, you're right.
Now it's more than that, but I shared it years ago.
You certainly did.
They're going to manifest more and more and more.
It seems like every day it seems like there's one.
The more and more we're trying to help our people help themselves, if you get the point, and get them out of looking for a savior, but to be aware and to, because also we're unfolding, and part of the operations of the Khazarians is to stagnate our development. Because keep in mind, we're the things that were, which you already know, because you've talked about it many times when you would share with the people when you were traveling in your car.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people look at the entry of the energies of the planetary portals and this side of this particular solar system, and what they would call the alignment and the entry of the Aquarian energies. So you also already know that the retarded tech, and when I say the retarded tech, and I say that respectfully, with the civilization technology that has been operative in these last couple hundred years, was known from the beginning to already be obsolete. I'm going to repeat. Known from the beginning to be obsolete. But it's been managed by people who know the folding, or they know the dimensional time warp. Now, the masses are not supposed to know that. Some of them are kind of figuring it out a little bit, but they don't have anything to hold on to because they have no measure, meaning they have nothing to compare to, but they can feel it. Now, what has happened, in order for them to save themselves, they have to introduce ancient technology as new technology to kind of prepare a groundwork for recalibrating civilization operation on the planet at Midgard. But they have the dilemma with, as I told you years ago, with the outsiders that are starting to make themselves known. Some malevolent and some benevolent, who've been trying to contact us or wake us up. So now they're fighting that, if you get the point. But at the same time, they know that everything that's built in third dimensional tech is dissolving by nature, not by political will. Everything they're going to talk from the perspective that they're doing things by political will. Not true. Some, but not true. Now, the masses not being aware of us actually being in a design time warp, deliberate obsolescence, but it has to be pushed aside in order to set up what they refer to as a new world order, but what it is, recalibration. an introduction to technology that was already known, that what was preserved for themselves in what you call those offshoot or the off-break civilizations that have been operative right in your face.
Breakaways, they call them. Yeah,
Yeah.
breakaway civilizations.
Now,
yeah.
Now, but the other problem that they're having is that the Manchurian families ain't having it the way they want it. Meaning they're trying to enter into the new world, maintaining the hegemony. Remember, I told you the European hybrid hegemony. So they're trying to enter into the new phase, still maintaining hegemony. So that's what's going on between, and they'll say China, I say the Manchurian families. And I also remind you what I told you years ago, and also in lesson book 14, with the dissolution of the consular venue in 1954 with Eisenhower. But remember, that's the same time also they was making deals with some of the malevolent outsiders to misuse technology to maintain the hegemony here at Midgard. Now, among themselves, they'll call it treaty tech transfer between off-worlders and them. However, they have a problem too, because I think that some of the off-worlders are kind of pissed off with them also misusing the tech. If you get the point.
But they had an option when that was offered to them to have technology for the to do good for the people, or to have weapons of war technology and so forth, and they opted to give people up in exchange for some kind of technology that was not
let
actually
me also interject this at the same time. You remember about 10 or 11 years ago, I reminded you that the Manchurian family sent gold here to help us and the Khazarians, i.e. the United States Corporation Company, members of the Circle Church and Chancery, known as the congressmen and senators, etc., stole it. But they've been running the United States Corporation Company since then off of what they refer to in the record as Chinese gold. That was sent for us. This is another reason why they perpetrated the 14th Amendment corpse, the dead. This is why when you see Drew Ali say black according to science means deaf, he's talking not etymologically, he's talking sociologically relative to hereditaments and occupational powers by virtue of Usufruct, which is known by the political record as hypothecation, as demonstrated by Roosevelt with his them sending or using the birth certificate with Seed and Company in New York to refund or reacclimate their bankrupted United States Corporation Company. All of that is tied together, which is why I'm mentioning all this stuff.
Okay.
Anywhere, any branch of it, we can go into a longer and deeper research and conversation, but I'm making metacivic connections so that those who are listening and those who are real researchers will have things to go off, because everything that I mentioned literally can contain volumes, but all operative right now, which is why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, so yeah, they're gonna really, because you hear words and big words, and like a lot of times, if you don't write them down and then go look them up, and you can't really get the full context of what's being said. So, hegemony, you use that. So I guess people might want to know.
Now the people are trained to say racism and prejudice. That's the mainstream narrative that the people have been trained with under animal husbandry. The real operations is hegemony operations of Unam Sanctum.
Okay.
with the Germanic strains.
So
Now,
what you've been telling us is that there are these covert global families who have inserted themselves into, well, not just us, but every control system. That's why
they have a military base in
right, and they're not.
Now,
Yeah, they're not just political.
Purpose.
Yeah, they're not just political. They're very really ritualistic, and they actually have been coded their stuff into religious doctrines for whatever.
Now you're dealing with Thessalonians 1 and 2 of the Heliotext and the meaning of God, government ordinance department, and the misuse or the weaponization of religion to actually promote the very Romans that murdered Jesus are actually ruling as God.
Right. And they don't serve God. They don't teach. They groom their offspring in secrecy, right? And they don't serve God, they serve hegemony.
Here we go. And we're not getting into it as a subject. That's why I did wordship dispeller, to break that spell. It's not a rejection of what people think God is, i.e. the creator, but the deal of it is the very opposing force or the negative dark side
behind it,
is the God that they've been worshiping, thinking that they're worshiping Jesus.
Right.
But they have hypothecated deceit. That's why Yahshua said, look, when I was yet with you, I told you these things. Don't you remember? That they would put themselves on the throne of God, claiming to be God. It's letting you know it's generic. It's not the name of the creative forces or the outsiders. Because remember, the God is actually plural, that the people think is singular in the sense.
Elohim.
That is indeed plural. See, this is back to the mind control and why the real ancient Coptic Sabian origin of religion is not taught, so that they can weaponize it. And it has been weaponized. It's not to be rejected. It is to be relooked at, if you get the point.
Right.
So the people don't know that what they've been calling the dark side is actually been ruling Midgard as God, and use it, but tell you it means the creator. And so this is where people start arguing with each other, because they think that you're attacking creative force when you don't even have the capacity to do that. It is not only like someone talking about a fetus arguing with his mom. To even go to there is kind of naive, but you can make that metaphor. But that's to give you something to think about. But the point that I'm making is, because all of these things are unraveling, they're trying to kill off the host. In other words, the vampires are trying to kill off the host rather than be pulled off. It's sort of like this. This is their position. If I can't rule, I'm going to burn it down. That's their position. That is their position, and people need to understand that. However, their power also depends on us keep believing in them and supporting their systems. And the shadow government is supported through the property tax placed upon the houses that the people dwell in, that they think they own. They're renting from the Khazarians. It's been hypothecated under Usufruct, controlled by the U.S. corporation company. These same people that keep saying to you that they're your representative Congress and senators are field operatives of Rome. That's why Washington, they'll say DC, and you won't see them use the whole name because they don't want the people to be reminded that Columbia is Roman goddess. That's her district or seat in the Maghreb, seat in the West. The connection is to the city of Rome, or city of London, not London City in the concept that people have. That's a corporate district that deals with all of the usufructory paper, private commercial paper, that the animals are trained, and I say animals because that's how they speak of you. Train is money. When there are voucher systems to the Sister QV Trust, controlled by the popes of Rome, who wear dresses to claim the position of the matriarchy, which was overthrown. You need to understand they're partners. The fact that the people think they're separate is part of the scatterbrain operations. But because they're threatened, they're trying to kill off the creditors, which is you, who are under occupation. The legal term is called usufruct. The operations is called usufructory. That's why they don't teach civics. That's why they don't teach jurisprudence, so that the people don't know what they're dealing with. And they do the wars to distract you. The wars are not for winning. The wars are for human sacrifice. But the people think it's for winning. That's why the people say, why don't they just win the war and do this and do? It's not for winning. It's for drawing out to kill off. It's called culling. Culling. In another term, on the principle of occupation and usufructory, it would be called Herod killing the firstborn. So they can't have what? The inheritance. Why? Because they're using it. Occupation. Now you understand rights of indigenous people, and also the decolonization 1960 that has not been taught to the people. But to cover their tracks, they put in, I think it's part 1, Article 5, the people have a right to a name and nationality. That's why that's there. So they can say that they told the people, because remember, in order to declare the heir, you got to name them. And it can't be a pseudonym or what is known as a nom de guerre, which is known as war name. That's why they did the 14th Amendment, to create the nom de guerre, to distort the truth of airship. People need to understand you're talking airship. Stop talking racism, which is a diversion. Why do you think they did the counter move in 1913? When did Drew Ali set up Old Canaanite Temple officially?
19.
On the record.
Is it the same year? I don't know.
1913.
Yeah, the same year, 1913.
What geographical location?
Chicago?
Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, Newark. And before we went to Chicago. Okay.
What do you look at when you look right to the east? You see the Statue of Liberty.
Empire, yeah, New York, yeah.
How many spires are on her head? 7. Where does she stand? In the bay. It's code. They're the heirs and don't know they're the heirs. The issue is about inheritance. Now you understand Rebecca Matuaka story, rewritten as Pocahontas, Gravesend, England, where they murdered her, threw her in the water, drowned her, and then started what is known as Jamestown, Virginia. Then they took Maryland, a part of Maryland and a part of Virginia, and on the line, they built a monument, obelisk, and they call it what? Virgin Mary.
Oh, Virgin Mary.
Virginia, Maryland. Now you see the time warp. And then where do they seat there? A throne for the Roman goddess. Now you understand the brass plaque at the Daughters of the American Revolution, DAR. The citizenship manual that's studied around the world, DAR manual. Why Asiatic women cannot be members? Because they're the target. I'm throwing out things that need to be looked at so that people can get rid of the major reason we're talking the way we're talking, we have to slay the naivety that permeates our thought processes.
Yeah.
In other words, the new mind can't take root until we sweep out the trash. So the people have to be reborn with a new mind. So we have to do what? We have to, without anger, explain the system and break the codes. And then they have to use their common science to break the rest, because that's how they'll break out of the shell. They have to do it. You can't do it for them. However, we can assist. That's all we're doing. But they have to break the usufruct in order to break the hypothecation, in order to claim the estate. Who's the heir and who is not? That's why they renamed Mataoka Rebecca after the book in the Bible, Genesis. And what chapter is it? What's the number of the chapter? With the transfer issue of the birthright with Isaac, Esau, Rebecca. What is 2 and 5?
7.
Oh. Code. That's why I told you not to get rid of the Bible.
I didn't.
No, why I made the statements.
Oh.
See, because one of the keys is to create things that all of that stuff didn't come from us. All of it is ours, not some of it. Even though some of it's modified by them to tell our story as his story. He interjected himself. He's the alien. That's why Ulysses Grant modified the Naturalization Act after they got rid of Lincoln. And now they're having a problem with it themselves at the border when they're the alien. And they're talking about the other Americans that crossed the border, aren't they? It's kind of a dichotomy, isn't it? It's kind of like an interesting political contradiction, isn't it? Yeah. But most people who don't understand political and geographical jurisdiction are blinded with them loosely and improperly hypothecating the name American when it don't belong to them. And the people have forgotten. Not all, but that's what they're dealing with now. So keep in mind, as we've talked for years, that the nations will stop buying U.S. Treasury bonds and U.S. Surety bonds. That's where you're in now. So that means, this is what it means. It means that the trustees for the Circle Church and Chancery, Fleet Street, England, will have to create more private commercial paper and attempt to sell it on the world market through Water Street, and no one's buying them. Therefore, they will have to make a loop circle, create it and buy it back, and create it and buy it back, and create it and buy it back, and that's what's going to kill it. It will strengthen, not, fall. It will strengthen and then disappear. And they know it's coming and it's unstoppable. That's where I'm telling you where they are, so that we can understand that what they're telling us is not what they're really thinking. I'm giving you some of their thoughts. Meaning that I'm showing you the deck, the marked deck. Do with it what you will. But with the people, they can't say they haven't been told. Because we haven't just introduced this in this conversation. We've done this over the years. However, it's vital at this moment to bring focus.
Move your finger from your eye.
Oh, yeah. I'm always sticking at it.
I'm watching you, so stop. Say that publicly.
Yeah, stop it.
Yeah, stop that.
But so that's what they're doing now, right? Now, so remember, as we said years ago, when we told people to take their fiat out the banks?
Yeah.
That's because they're going to take it. And even though it's fiat, that's going to be the last vestige of control for the digital transfers, because the fiat is only for record keeping. But it's still digital. It's been digital. All fiat is digital. And this is back to where things are done in people's faces and they can't see. They think that digital currency is something that's recently introduced, when all fiat is itself simply a record bookkeeping system for digital transfer, which is why they can rob you at any time without physically taking it from you. Now they want total control, which is why they want to take the physical reserve debt note to take all control, because it's over.
They have I have a new movie. I believe it's a Amazon Prime video called G20. And if you've seen that, y'all, that movie is, about a U.S. president. So I know they have these G summits, G7, 8, well, this is G20. And the U.S. president is a melanated female played by Viola Davis, who goes to South Africa for a summit to convince the other countries to switch to the digital currency. So about that. And I felt that was very interesting and timely that they would put that out. Now, is it a precursor to what they're going to do, what they're planning to do anyway? You know what I mean? With that, to get people to get engrossed in that movie so much that when it comes, you take it like, oh, it was a good thing. It was humanitarian because they played it off in the movie, somewhat like that. So, but I thought it was interesting. Now you look at things and you go, okay, I see the signals they're sending out. I see what they're trying to do, because you can't look at anything anymore for entertainment. And
it's multiple layered message, because it's also showing you who the real matriarch is. The same way, what's the sister Sylvia, who did the Matrix, that the Khazarians robbed her at first. Remember, they robbed her? And that's back to hypothecation. That was Usufruct. But that's the structure of the U.S. It is designed. In other words, that's not an aspect of it. It is the military operations of Rome for that purpose. That's its existence. And this is where we have, because they've controlled the narrative, our people keep thinking they have a corrupt politician here and a corrupt politician there, and not understanding that the U.S. is
Corrupt.
100,000%
Corrupt.
corrupt from the top to the bottom by design, but is giving a beautiful face. That's called prima facie. Semblance, distinguished from that which is real. Also from an operative trade position referred to as fiat. Fiat has multiple faces and most people can't see them. It's another reason why we're saying this, because they just, their concept is money, not understanding this government. And declarations, decrees, or bulls from Rome declaring power never vested in them, power of God, of whom they are not. Yet they claim the position and take the throne. The position is the reason why they always lead is that they always shoot the champions and take the medal. That's why they won't reveal the truth about the sacrifice of Malik that they call Malcolm, and anyone who crosses them that threatens the operations Unam Sanctum. And that's why all these years, 62 some odd years, that's why they have all the information and they tell you about other countries, but yet they haven't told the people here about the truth about JFK. But he did that executive order dealing with the issue of gold, didn't he?
Who, JFK?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, that's not the only reason they neutralized him, but I'm just saying to you, the very fact that the general public who keep on thinking that, quote unquote, these people are their government don't know, but yet they still being supporting them through taxation that's fraudulently collected when they actually are private corporation. This is why it's always key for people to keep in mind when they're studying anything that we presented, to remember the position of the representatives for the banking system that belonging to the Khazarians, their approach to the United States Corporation Company when they came at them on the principle of leeches, relative to that $24 check that was forged in Clearfield, Pennsylvania, which is called the Clearfield Doctrine. So you need to look at the motive behind, because the members of the bar know what I'm saying right now as a standard protocol of understanding government. And I present that to you as reference so that you can recognize your own naivety, those of you who still think that these people are your government. And this is back to recognizing how comfortably they've done and are doing things right into people's faces when information is available to actually knock all of it out. But the people still maintain a sense of allegiance to their own enemy because they think it's their government. And they think anybody that shows or exposes anything is the enemy, when it's not true. Including the same Khazarians that wrote that article about me, I think around 205, calling me the Fourth World War, hoping someone would neutralize me after they put that signal out. They tried 3 times. Also, just to let you know, in the last 5 years, I was poisoned twice. I just didn't tell you.
Were you out and about? Yeah,
I already knew. I didn't tell you. I'm telling you now.
Okay.
My constitution was too strong, though. But So I'm just telling you.
Well,
So,
you're telling us all now. We know.
yeah.
So, wow.
Uh-huh. But I already understand this war. But also at the same time, I don't fear death.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the point of it is they got to do their work. We have to do ours.
Absolutely.
It's personal, but it ain't personal. I don't even take it personal. It's like being in a boxing ring. You get knocked down, get up, shake up, and get back to work. But the deal of it is the people need to know, because remember, also as an interjection, remember poison is Rome's major, their major tool. That's their most usual way. No different than they've done many of, and this is for many of you who also may not or may have and may also be distracted with, although it's a point of interest, quote unquote non performance insurance policies. Repeat, performance insurance policy. Then make a database and trace back to Bessie Smith and beyond, Billie Holiday right on up to Angie Stone, Whitney and all the rest of them, Sam Cooke, all the rest of them, including actors. And start paying attention to patterns. But very few people talk about the non-performance insurance policies and who actually owns the policies. Gazarians. That's why none of those stuff is. You ever notice that none of those things are ever cured? When I say cured, it's always mysterious. It's like they just happen not to know exactly, but indirectly, who really neutralized Mike, who really neutralized Prince, who really neutralized Whitney, her daughter. It's always vague and very few direct. And no one's thinking about those insurance policies, are they? And they're not controlled by the families, I'll tell you that. Because you're dealing with usufruct by organized design. So,
and they have these rappers now, these young rappers. I mean, they don't even get to do much at all. They just get enough to get a name out there. And when their name is hot, then they're out, and they got.
Now, what people are not thinking, people get caught in gang narratives, which are controlled and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, as an example, no one's thinking about the portfolio, all their intellectual property. Now, when Q used to call me on Wednesdays years ago, right?
Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones.
Well, we'll just say Q.
Okay, we'll say Q.
When Q used to call me Wednesdays, and when Mike was having problems, when they were setting him up to rob him, right? Because that was a setup.
Oh yeah,
that was a setup. Right? Now the principle was, pay us because it's going to cost you more fighting it, even if you win. So he had made a payoff, and they had even used that against him. But what Mike did do, he set up a trust to start fighting back, right? And then rather than buy, 5 pound chains to put around his neck and gold teeth with diamonds in it, right? because Mike already knew that all of that stuff is masonite, not real diamonds, and the Khazarians actually control it with a certain so-called diamond companies. One of them starting with D, and they actually control them from slave labor that they introduced into China after they did the opium wars against China. And they actually had slave labor in China making that stuff, and then they sell it as if it came from Europe. And most of the rappers and stuff that got these big chains and stuff is Mason. Now, it's good stuff. Now, don't
you talk about that moissanite.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man-made diamonds.
Yeah.
It's not bad quality because it's really the same, basically. And then some has more fire in it than actually real diamonds, but they're not real diamonds, point that I'm making. And the people are being ripped off. They've been being ripped off.
Well, just like China now is exposing these high-end European labels and saying we made it here in China. They may have put their
now,
made in Paris there when we sent it over there, but you can get it from us directly now and save
look
you
in the background.
50%.
The insurance that these very same people in the industry put on their jewelry in their homes, the same people have the policies on that too, and control the sales of them. That's why you see the Jewelers Row in Philly and in New York. Knows who the major purveyors who own them, and in Brooklyn. And these people still ain't caught on.
Mm-hmm.
The same way, when Billy started trying to get herself straight and trying to control her music, they neutralized her.
Mm.
Interesting thing, but that ain't new. Now I remember when, as an example, because things ain't always what they seem either.
True.
Because like when I first started singing when I was like 19 or something like that, Teddy Pendergrass used to be our drummer. We used to come to Pennsville, New Jersey, pick him up with Sonny Miller Band. You know what I mean? And even right to today, part of the problem, even with his family, and that's their business to speak of, haven't gotten everything that they should have got, because somebody else is controlling the non-performance insurance policies. And that accident ain't exactly either what they said it was over there on the drive.
The drive, Kelly Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Kelly Drive?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's another thing. I'm just what I'm projecting is that our people got to stop being naive.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got to stop looking at these things emotionally and look at them as it's political and biological and psychological warfare all the time, and it's been that. Never not been that. You have not been living under racism and prejudice. You've been living under Unam Sanctum. The operations is usufructory and hypothecation. And anytime a politician opens up their mouth, when you forget that, you become subject. And because they're being counter-moved by the nations of the earth, they're going to sacrifice you before they take accountability because you're closest to them. That's what I'm saying to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you believe in them, it's at your own peril. If you support them, it's at your own peril. If you assist them, it's at your own peril. Because they don't love you, don't think they do, and don't get caught up in party shenanigans, because what you're dealing with is cotton wigs
Conscience wigs.
Conscience wigs. Their public mask is Republican Party
Democrat.
and Democratic Party. Kaiklos. That's also known as Ku Klux Klan. And you've been supporting your own economic and political demise. And don't get into the diversion of race and color game, because all of those are psychological warfare. You're dealing with birthright issues and airship issues and occupied land. That's all you should be thinking about. Land, occupation of land, hereditaments, corporal and incorporeal, and the responsibility of competence and decolonization as your agenda. Anything else is a diversion from what you should be doing. This is why you see around the world, you see nation states, some by necessity, some by moral principle, but most by necessity and existential principle, nationalizing their resources. Because it's on. It's not coming, it's on. And the usufructuary is being openly perpetrated, meaning that they're not trying to program. Now you understand Donald Trump's conversations about taking Panama, taking Greenland. Now you understand where that's coming from. He's not out to lunch.
Usufruct.
It's usufructuary. It doesn't make him a bad person personally. Do you understand? You need to, it's sort of like when you're dealing with war and soldiers, they don't necessarily look at their enemy that they don't like them. They look at them from the perspective of neutralize or be neutralized. And this is why a lot of times, like when you notice how what they were doing to the Manchurian family, because remember, we're looking at China, right? In the news, right? The politicians are looking at Manchurian families. You got to understand what I'm projecting to you. So they're looking at certain realities that we're not, if you get the whole point. Like a politician talking to you, and the Chinese, they took our sandwiches, and then they sent these cars over here, and they sent more than we sent over there. And the real deal is, that's a cover up the fact that the real deal is that they robbed the people here, shipped out the JOBs for cheap labor. You understand? Because they have no allegiance to the people here. They're a private corporation. They're international. They have no allegiance anywhere. And they set up some of them same businesses after they did the opium wars against China to rob them then. And they're mad because they didn't succeed to maintain like they did here. And then they start talking down on them. And then they stole the gold that the Manchurian families sent to help us here in North America in 54. The whole civil rights movement is a cover-up for the closure of consular court venue, Article 3, Section 2 of their obligation to treaty law and constitutional enforcement. That's a fact. Eisenhower administration. And all this other stuff is a diversion from their obligations. Keep in mind their obligations. And so keep in mind when Drawley said enforce the Constitution, he said to make us awake, not that he expected them to honor it. They honor no law or treaty. They are lawless. They are a rogue political order of Unam Sanctum who have been successfully pretending to be a nation state. In other words, they've been impersonating. Don't get mad. Clean your mind up and redirect your energies. And understand this too. Let's be blunt. Because we're not going to be naive about this. You're not going to save everybody. You're going to have a lot of what they refer to as collateral damage. And don't think that they have any conscience doing it, because they don't. They didn't, don't, and won't. So don't keep appealing to their quote unquote moral compass. It doesn't exist with them. And for those with whom it does exist, they will neutralize them among themselves. This is what happened to Kennedy. Meaning, if you try to do right, if you try to enforce Constitution among them, they will neutralize them. As soon as Trump started talking about make America great, who attacked him? You think that was Chinese attacking him? No. You think that was Russian collusion attacking him? No. It was among their own. That's the Civil War I told you about, Dr. J. I can't hear you.
There was some noise outside and I muted myself. Forgot I muted myself. But we had I had a conversation. I realized we're in our last few minutes, 8 minutes. And I'm not going to keep you on here because I know, this is your first time back and after 6 months, and I don't want Dr. Prime Minister. I don't want her to get me. So I want to end on time. But I did promise to do this. I was talking, Enforce the Constitution is actually doing how they got all these campaigns out. They got boycott this, boycott that. So they have, and I wanted to put this this up that they have just for people to see it. I said I would. I don't know how it's going to show up here, but here it is. It's in between. It's over. It's not the size of, but they have a decolonize now campaign going on. And if you go, I guess, to enforcetheconstitution.org, you can participate in this process. And it's based on some of the things that are going on now, some of the executive orders that Trump has put out and so forth, that it's a good time to, end contracts and do a lot of things that you need to do in the process of decolonization. And so I said that I would, put that. I know you've had conversations with Consul General. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't make that.
Thank you.
It would have been, but I also wanted to say thank you to enforcetheconstitution.org. They did an issue last month. Was this month? I guess it was at like the end of the month, and they did a 4-page spread on yours truly, on me, and they interviewed me, and I didn't know it was going to end up being a 4-page article. So the Maghreb Times, I'm so grateful for that article. I printed it out, and if you go to enforcetheconstitution.org, it's actually on there if you care to read anything else about me. And before all you go, because I want to get some last words for you, but I have to put my stuff in between there, because if you go, we get to the end of you talking, then what's going to happen is a lot of people going to drop off because they just they do that. But so Grand Sheik, I'm involved with a company that has been out of Mexico that is a completely natural, holistic, and has been operating on the same principles that Dr. Staby has operated on under. And when I tell you the things that I've used so far, like when y'all saw me drinking this, even though I have it in this bottle, look at this, say something on the bottle, but the bottle doesn't belong to it. I was taking something called V Daily, and this one little scoop of this thing has like 85 vitamins, minerals, vegetables, mushrooms, and everything, and tastes like lemonade.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
was drinking like a zil.
Like
I don't
tasty.
eat. It is real good. I haven't eaten a thing all. Oh, I love that smile. Look at your smile. But I haven't eaten a thing all day. I'm just not hungry. But I said, let me at least take the vitamins because they taste so good.
Yeah.
The other things they have, and what I wanted to say to you all before y'all get off, I have is it a banner? Yeah, I have a banner that I want to put up just for a minute to see if you guys would take I'm gonna put it up as not as a scroll. We have something called did I delete it? I might have. We have a bot right here. You know how everything, they have chat bots and stuff. So take note of this, y'all. It is vitalhealthbot.com. Vital Health Bot. Please take this down. Vitalhealthbot.com. When you click on it, it's not Chat GPT, but it's a bot that's connected to the company. And what you can do when you go there is put in any health concerns that you might have, any, be it anything. And what this bot is going to do is in a matter of a minute or so, not even less, tell them or tell you whatever it is we have that addresses this, the issue that you have. And if we don't have what it thinks you need, it will also tell you that too, give you tips on how to manage, whether you're talking about the D word or the C word or the you got brain fog or low libido. Put it in there. It's free. It's going to then give you a list of products and so forth that you can actually get alleviation from and address your situation. And I wanted to make sure that I got that out there. And I even made a little, and I'm going back to Grand Chic at the very end, but I made a little thing because let me take this down. Okay. I made a little, this sister here, and basically it is saying, if you're experiencing any of these, and that's not an exhaustive list. You might have some of those problems. Check that bot out and get some suggestions and recommendations as to what would help you. I mean, Grand Chic, we actually have coffee called Love Cafe that helps. Love Cafe, and you guys are on here. It has Tonkat Ali in it and some other stuff, and so it helps with the libido, and it helps with for both males and females. It helps to infertility. It helps with your just getting your hormones balanced if you're female or male. It like I said, it gives y'all both those happy feelings to get jiggy with it and stuff. So it's a cup of it's a coffee, but that's just for instance. So I just wanted to make sure I got that in. And one last thing I want to make sure that, and Grand Chic help me with this one. I want them to know that on this coming next Friday, we're back to our fourth Friday civics, and this, of course, Grand Chic, you will not be there this yet, but we have our Teach and Lady J. They're going to be talking about continuing on their class on how to live in private, and yours truly will be doing something called Get Your Wealth Together. So
that's timely. That's really timely.
Right. So so get your wealth is written like that. So it's like yourself, your wealth. I'll be speaking on Get Your Wealth Together.
You can put in parentheses your estate that's been hypothecated. That's the wealth.
Well, they'll hear what I have to say about it. I'm just saying
because that's timely, because basically that's what it is. And it's not a misuse of words, but I'm saying to you, we need to get the people to understand what's really at work. It's estate, which includes the wealth, all hereditamous, corporal and incorporeal. And keep in mind, I want you all to start doing some research, because it's not going to be in the mainstream. And you're going to find that a lot of Europeans, upper middle class, who've been thrown under the bus, are suing, are coming together and suing the tax assessment offices because they have been deliberately over the years and knowingly using false data to make assessments on people's houses in order to get the tax for the corporate entity that's really not government, and sending the parts of it to, i.e., you know where, occupied Palestine, for which the Tax Act was created for in the first place, fraudulently in 1917. Keep that in mind, that the taxes that they've been stealing from you under, i.e., school tax, under the property, is a fraud, always has been a fraud. And start looking up the records and you'll see that they don't align with reality. And then they've been creating bonds on it, on you, transferring it to Seed and Company, and then selling it on the world market. That platform is collapsing. That's also part of the problem that they're not telling you. That's to bring you up to speed. So again, Lady J is giving you a method to start trying to protect. Of course, we should have always been doing that anyway, Dr. G. But the deal of it is, things are getting kind of muddy now and a little bit chaotic, but don't fail to do it anyway. Because remember, like I told you, they're going to sacrifice these people to save themselves. Because no one's buying the bonds. Keep in mind, all of your big cities are funded by the bonds that you think are coming from Wall Street. They're coming off of you. Problem is, see this, I'm going to give you some signals. What are we talking about before, Dr. G? I told you to watch Deutsche Bank. I told you about 8 years ago.
You've been saying that for a long time, yeah.
Right? That's Germany. Now, don't think for a minute that them blowing up that gas line coming from Russia is not connected to what I'm saying. It is. The mortgages here on these people's private property that they think they own, most of them are housed at Deutsche Bank in Germany. Your idea of what you think jurisdictional sovereign territories is not really what's ever been going on. Are we clear? These people who you've been calling your governors and they're not yours, but that's what you've been trained to call. They'll walk in on these JOBs that are 175 to 200 grand, and they'll be millionaires within 6 months. They've been selling you all around the world, and you still ain't caught on. However, keep in mind, those bonds that they float every year, most of them, what they call the school bonds and stuff like that, that they've been funding the universities and schools with, has never been going where you thought they were going. And they're never satisfied. They make new bonds the next year. So they've killed all the equity in your houses. So like, say, for instance, you've been working all your life thinking that you're building equity in your house. And then when you get ready to sell it, not only do they tax you on it, they've been robbing you all the time. Then they crash the market, which is what they're doing now. So I told you, Dr. G, watch California and watch Florida. Didn't I tell you watch that? Watch it. Now watch all the people's years of investments in the condos and everything. Pennies on the dollar, and they got to dump them while they can. And guess what? There's no buyers.
Well,
I'll tell you more, but
you could. It'll be the next time. We'll be back on the first Friday. Like we try to get back on schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, on the third Friday. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're at the end, almost at the end now. So this
Love
was
you.
just this was just a comeback, and this was amazing. And we'll work on some other stuff to talk about, but I don't want to overtax you. And I am just so grateful, happy to see you.
Yeah, you're
And
beautiful. I'm so glad to see you.
yeah, I'm trying to be, trying to get it together for, I came
Yeah.
into it. Look, I'm now a septuagenarian like you. So until you got one more year and then you leave and you'll leave me and you'll be in the whatever the octogenarian. But right now I came into your arena and I'm so happy to see you and to hear people to hear you.
Yeah. The Prime Minister and my son keeps tying me down. I'm trying to get in the yard to play some basketball. They say, you can't go out there. You can't do this. You can't do that. Please.
Well, I thank her for allowing you to come and do this. Yeah. So I appreciate it, and we appreciate all of you. The ones that I blocked, y'all know that they don't know who you are, but they were just, I don't tolerate that stuff anymore. We just gonna go, bye for stuff that sounds crazy and hokey. But we will be back. This was just the first. I have some people, that are going to be coming on. I'm trying to get office hours rebooted because, like I said in the beginning, I've been resetting myself. I'm going to have a whole new, platform when the book comes out, because it's going to everything kind of goes along with that. But just as we close, thank you for some of the listening to some of my chapters. I don't know what you think. Just give them tell them what you think about this book that's coming out based on what you've read or so far heard so far.
Mm-hmm. I think it's timely. I think it's never too late, but I was looking for it earlier, to be honest with you, to actually be honest with you. And I really can't wait to get into it. And it's sort of like, because soon as I get into it, I already know we're going to be sitting around talking what you said here. You should have put this in here. And you should.
I know. See, I'm afraid to let you, read chapters because I said you be interjecting and rewriting I'm gonna let you get it when it's already in print and say, okay, you should have, but you didn't. I'll say, but I didn't.
Yeah, but what you do is good, because it's so much needed, Dr. G.
Yeah,
and
you know what? They might put me on the hit list after this book because it's got some stuff.
Remember, everybody's always been on it anyway. This is one of the problems that people have that think, like where people think if they didn't rock the boat, that they wouldn't be food.
Right.
The part of the game is that maintaining that psychology when they're all chickens on a rotisserie.
Right.
What do you think that happens to everyone that even neutral? No different than they did with Michael, Martin, right? Even in the statement that he said, right, when he talked about he's not fearing any man, right, and when he talked about our people being refugees in their own land, he was.
You talk about Michael King.
Yeah, the point of this, how do you say, cryptically, he was telling the people that they're the people of the land. Right. But you got to remember also he's a Mason. He had pledges.
True.
And then he was also neutralized because he was, partially tied to them to maintain the Negro marching mentality and recognize that whether consciously or unconsciously, he was neutralizing his own people and his own family. And in different ways, subtly, you could see that he was apologizing.
Yeah, you're right.
But he also knew that they were going to neutralize him. So therefore, it's sort of like people who make deals, who make pacts with Rome, think that Rome ain't going to sacrifice them too. That's the point that I'm making. So don't think that because you don't rock the boat, you're off the radar. No, not true.
Yeah. So anyway, listen. So what we're gonna go because we could go on and on and on and on. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your prayers. Just thank you for your support. Share this video. Let folks know Grand Sheik is doing, really good. He's not 100% yet. You can see there's still stuff that has to be addressed, especially with his eye, and other things. But look, he's in rare form. Told y'all. Yep, he's in rare form. 79 years young, y'all. And we're, so just look out for us. Look out for me. Coming back on, I don't get this much support on Tuesday nights for office hours with Dr. G, but those of you who can, when you see that I posted, please just check us out. Sometimes you might miss something. Don't let it just be because a certain one you like. If I have Branchie, if I have my Chief Pontiac on Tuesday night, I got 1,300 people in the dot. But let's come in support, period. If you're not doing anything now, if you're busy, I get it, right? But look, come and support. Let me know that you care about what I'm doing too. I love that Grand Sheik can garner all this support too, but he wants you to come for the other things too. And if you can come out on Tuesday, next Friday in person here at Delaware, you're not going to be disappointed. And also I'm going to have products there too. If people want, some of these terrific vitamins and stuff and Tonkat Ali in coffee that you don't even have to put in a coffee pot. You just mix it in hot water or cold almond milk and you got your drink. We got something that burns fat and all that. So come and see us, come and hear the teachings and, come and be inspired. Come and get a flat USB drive. I have USB drives there. And they're five notes less when you come and get them in person. So, and soon Grand Sheik will be back there to, meet you in person, but you need to come out and be there next Friday if you can.
And Dr. J.
Yes.
And this is, I say timely too. If people were really paying attention, including people that have been trolling, the Europeans are going to back up everything I said and add to it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And I'll close out with saying Assalamu alaikum, shalom, vadimekum, bon abort.
And I saw a comment that said that if you couldn't make it, could you get access to the information that they said Lady J is with? Actually, Teach is the main teacher, and Lady J is his assistant, his consort. So they're a team together, but Teach is going to be your main speaker. They work together. But in the answer to your question, unfortunately, because of the subject matter that they teach on private, we don't record them because it's private, y'all. But you can get information when you come in person. Huh?
Now remember, as you look at this stuff over the years, it almost has to be because of the infiltration on so many levels. You have opposition, real opposition, even people that's a standard protocol for which they boast about. Every organization is infiltrated, not going to be. So there'll always be people that will be interjected, that will come smiling, but their real mission is either to stagnate, divert, or undermine. But they come with a smile. Don't take it personal. Understand you're really at war. Even if you're not warring, they're warring on you.
It's true.
This is what they say in King Alfred. They say it bluntly what they're doing. They don't even hide it. And that's another interesting thing, Dr. G, where they said that what they're going to do. It's not like, of course, it wasn't supposed to be public, you know what I mean? But the experience is there, which means their actions have told you everything. And yet people will listen to the politicians to make promises to them that they're going to give them a new bologna sandwich with Negroite sauce.
We are going, Grand Sheik. You're not going to get me in trouble with Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And Shamsuddin, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much.
Please.
Thank you all.
Give everybody greetings for me again. And thank you for everybody who's been supportive. And, so many that we haven't mentioned. But thank you so very much, etc. Look beautiful, Dr. G.
Oh,
keep up the good work. Do your thing. Tell Cat I said meow.
Will do. Thank you all. Thank you for
peace and love.
Peace and love. Let me see what I'm gonna put up here to go out of here. I'm gonna put something up. All right.
All right, I'm getting ready to leave studio.
All right, you can do that.
All right.
You can do that. All right, y'all. Thank you. We're about to get out of here. So don't forget, if you can come on next week, we'd sure love to see you and see your face in the place. Thank you all. Good night.
The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living the lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living the lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.